Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm gonna make this as short and as sweet as I possibly can to give you all of the important information that I'm excited to show you here on this heater. So over the last 2 or 3 years, I have exclusively used an HCalory diesel heater. They've kind of gone through different model changes throughout 2023, 24, and now we're in 2025. And they have essentially, I think, read all of our minds and created this TB2 MAX diesel heater. On paper, this thing looks absolutely perfect except for one issue that I've had with almost every single HCalory heater, and I'll tell you what that is when we get to it. But overall, this thing right now, I think, is probably the best heater on the market, price-wise. This particular heater is $299. That's without any coupons. Normally, when the actual winter season comes around, you're gonna get some coupons on this. But let's get into this actual heater itself so I can tell you exactly why I think HCalory really did kind of hit it out of the park on this particular model. Let's talk about size first. This is the smallest HCalory 8,000 kilowatt heater that I've ever had. Let me give you a few dimensions really here quickly. Width is about 14 3/4 inches. The height of this thing is 11.5 inches tall. Again, 11.5, maybe 11.25 inches deep. So it is a much smaller heater, which I like because some of the HCalory toolbox heaters are thin and tall, and you're gonna get this rocking motion, especially when you have that gas tank on the side. You're gonna have more weight on the side. It was kind of prone to tip. This has a much wider footprint, so it's going to stay put a little bit better. It's got the biggest size diesel tank out of any HCalory heater. This has a 7.5 liter diesel tank integrated inside. So I do not like, some people like, but I do not like the external fuel tanks. It just makes things really wonky and kind of out of balance. This is internal. You're good to go. And HCalory is claiming you can get around 62 hours of runtime on the low setting with a full tank of diesel. That is obviously more than a couple of days worth, running 24 hours a day off of one tank of diesel fuel. And then probably the coolest thing about this heater, one of the coolest things, is you've got the control panel here. It is hidden under this weatherproof flap. This thing technically does not have a waterproof rating. They are trying to get it IPX4 rated. However, they are claiming that you can leave it out in the rainstorm or in the snowstorm and let snow accumulate on top. But asterisk to all of that, they are in the process of getting that certified. But right here, you've got your main LCD control panel, okay? And actually underneath, I keep the directions just in case, because let me show you what fits right here, which is just, I'm not gonna say, well, I'm gonna say it. It's a game changer. You've got a remote, wireless remote, and that fits in right here. You can close all this down, even with those directions I have underneath it, and it snaps into place. What is so awesome and kind of cures all the problems that I've had is this remote right here. First off, it's USB-C rechargeable, so you don't have to keep up with batteries. You have to have a power bank and a USB-C cable. However, no batteries for this. This is a carbon monoxide detector and a thermostat. That's huge. So you can keep this, in my case, in my camper, set the temperature that I want the inside of that camper to be, and having this next to me is actually going to be a thermostat to help regulate the heat output on this thing. The other way you can do it is what a lot of people have done in the past is you take this, which also has a thermostat on it, but you're gonna have a wire connected to it. Take this and put it inside your tent, and that's another way to regulate the temperatures. However, when you do that, and it does come with an extension cable that I'll show you, it's about a 6-foot extension cable. When you do that, there's really no good way to close this down and get 100% complete water seal. And you got to, deal with running cables into your tent or into your camper. But you can do that, and that's how all other heaters in the past have been kind of used if you want to have a thermostat inside where you need it to be warm. But having this is just awesome. You can change the temperature settings, you can monitor your carbon monoxide, and it's got the thermostat setting built into this right here. Then around here on the back, you're gonna have your intake. And this is actually, you can screw this thing off and on if you happen to need to clean it. But this is going to be where it's going to be sucking in obviously fresh air. You've got your power output down here. This can be used either via AC or DC, and I'll show you what it comes with, but you can hook this up directly to a battery, or if you have like a Bluetti or a Jackery or whatever, it's got an AC adapter to run straight off of AC power. The only issue, or the main issue that I have with this heater and every other HCalory heater, is that the output exhaust port, this is 3.5 inches. I personally have a really hard time finding a 3.5 inch standard dryer, insulated dryer hose. They're either 3 inches or they're 4 inches. There's a very few options out there for 3.5 inches, and the ones that I find are $50 for 6 feet of hose. I wish this was either a 4 inch, a standard 4 inch, or a standard 3 inch. But when you get down to 3 inches, you do risk sometimes overheating this actual heater because it can't push out the hot air fast enough, so I understand that. But I wish they would just make this output into 4 inches. That's the only issue. But I have found kind of a cure. So what this heater comes with are these silly little metallic hoses. Every single heater comes with this. But what you can do is take this, cut about 2 inches, and then connect it to the front. And that's going to give you just enough added beef to it that a standard 4 inch hose, you can fit right over it. Obviously, this would be cut down, but you can fit a 4 inch hose over this and then get a hose clamp and tighten it down so you can use a standard 4 inch hose. So don't throw these away. These are actually kind of useful in some circumstances. What I've done though is I found a silicone high temp elbow, and this used to be a 3.5 inch to a 4.5 inch. I cut right down the middle where the 4.5 inch was, and I'm just using the 3.5 inch. And I'll push this silicone sleeve. It's a really tight fit, but you can push this 3.5 inch sleeve over that, and now your 4 inch hose has a really, really nice tight fit over this. I mean, it takes some fiddling to get it on there, but to me, that's a little bit better solution than this. This does work. But I'll leave a link for this specific little silicone boot that I found on Amazon. It comes with some 4 inch hose clamps. So I'm just gonna put that on there and tighten it down, hook up the 4 inch hose, and you're good to go. And then of course, over here on the side, you've got your exhaust port. It does come with some exhaust hosing and a muffler that comes directly off the side. It's external. You don't have to route it down below and out, which is great. Some of these older heaters, you had to lift up off the ground to make room for that hose coming out the bottom. This comes straight out the side, and you don't have to worry about that at all. So that's basically it for the outside, guys. All the things that I like about this heater. All right, so what you're gonna get in this kit for 300 bucks, you've got your AC power converter. So this is gonna plug in directly to the heater itself, and then you'll plug this into any type of AC source, whether it be a Bluetti, a Jackery, your home wall, whatever you want. So it comes with that. You've got your exhaust hose, typical standard diesel heater exhaust hose. You got your muffler, nothing new there. This is gonna be your extension if you want to extend the actual screen. You will just unclip this connection, put this in between the middle, and then you can extend this out about 7 to 8 more feet if you want to use this way of putting the thermostat and screen with you. Now this also has a Bluetooth app, so I really don't see any need to do that. Just doesn't seem quite as efficient, but you've got the extension if you need it. This is going to be your power cord if you're going to connect it directly to a 12-volt battery. So again, this side plugs directly into the heater, and then these eyelets are going to plug into the positive and the negative side of a 12-volt battery. And then it's got some mounting feet, which I'm actually going to install just to lift it off the ground just a little bit. So these are going to fit up underneath and raise up the heater just about 1.5 inches off the ground. So these are going to install directly underneath with a couple of screws there. They fit right there. You tighten it down, and then you're going to have some legs. Now this also means that you can, it's got some holes here where you can bolt it down if you're going to permanently install it in your RV or on your deck of your tiny home, whatever. You can actually screw it down, so it's definitely not going to be going anywhere. But you've got that option as feet. You've got a couple of just rubber plugs that you can use to put on the bottom of that so it doesn't slide around, which is good. And then of course you've got all of your hose clamps and your smaller hose clamps to install the muffler pipe. So I'm gonna get everything installed, fill it up with gas, then we're gonna give it a test start to see if my Blue Eddy power station or my Jackery will actually keep this thing running, because that's one of the biggest issues I've had with taking these out camping, is that the 12-volt power source is simply just not enough. Now, this does not come with a 12-volt style cigarette plug. So you're gonna have to kind of build your own, because the only 12-volt cord that it comes with is this, which is gonna hook up directly to a battery. So I've got to figure out a way to connect one of the 12-volt power sockets to this, or just build my own so we can actually use it on a Jackery or on some type of power station. But let's get that set up and I'll show you how I do it, and then we'll give it a test fire. Well, I might have a little tip for you guys. I was just testing to see if this would work, but a standard 12-volt fridge, if you have a 12-volt cooler, the 12-volt adapter works for these heaters. In the past, these had a kind of a weird connection, but I can plug this over here on the side, and this is to one of my just bodega coolers, I think, and it actually works. So I'm gonna use this Jackery. The only power station I've really been able to use to work with diesel heaters is actually a 300 watt hour tiny old 5-year-old Jackery, because these are only 10 amps. And typically these take around 150 to 170 amps to heat up. So I'm not holding high hopes that this is actually gonna work. This might have to be connected directly to a 12-volt battery, but we're gonna test it out and see if it'll work. So I'm gonna get this Jackery powered on. I'll pull the camera in so we can watch the wattage as this thing starts to heat up. But let me get my DC cut on. Okay. So we've got power to this heater running it off of this cooler cable. I'm gonna use this remote to actually turn this thing on. Okay, it's just main startup phase. I haven't primed it or anything. There is a way to prime this thing first, but I've got a full tank of gas in it. I'm gonna see if it'll start without a priming function. But we're up to 60 watts, and it is gonna fluctuate quite a bit until those glow plugs heat up. So I just saw 170 watts. That's technically more than that's capable of. You can see down there, hopefully it's, you can see it says 10 amps. All right, I think you get the idea here. This is also supposed to be a very, very much more quiet heater. And I can hear that fuel pump starting to tick a little bit. And we're still fluctuating between 140 watts down to 60 watts, 130, 70. It's going back and forth. Obviously no heat yet, so I'm just gonna kind of keep a watch on this. You guys can hang out with me, see if it'll work. And this is on the middle heat setting, level 5. It goes from 1 to 10. So I have it right in the middle. I will say it is, I can hear it barely clicking. Much more different than all my other diesel heaters. The other ones you could hear a definitive click as that fuel pump started dripping the diesel, but we've got a little bit of white smoke coming out the muffler. And we're down to 20 watts, 16 watts, 30 watts, 28 watts, 27, 26, 30. I don't really feel, it's slightly warm, but you can see all the smoke that this new hose and muffler is putting out, maybe. That is definitely hot. This Jackery with a 10 amp output started this heater. We are averaging now 28 watts. We're starting to get warm air, definitely. And the one thing that you do not hear is a tick. I got my microphone right here. And there is no tick. Completely silent, other than, of course, the actual velocity of the air coming out and the exhaust. But there is no ticking sound that I can hear. Some people actually like that ticking sound. It's kind of like a metronome when you sleep. And honestly, it didn't really bother me. I know it bothers some people, but there is absolutely, there's no tick. And we are now pulling off the Jackery 27 watts, 26 watts, 24 watts. You can see here on the remote, that H5, that 5 is the temperature setting between 1 and 9 or 1 and 10, I believe. And then there you can see the temperature sensor on top of the remote. And there is your CO sensor on the bottom of the remote, and then the USB-C charging for this remote. I'm gonna bump it up to the highest setting, highest heat setting, H10. And we are still at 23 watts, 25 watts, and that is definitely pushing out some hot air. 297 degrees. That will keep you warm pretty much wherever. That is hot. That is too hot to keep my hand in front of, for sure. H10, the highest setting, and we are pulling 32 watts off of this Jackery. 30 watts, 33 watts, 34, 32. So just sips power. So that answers my question. You know, I'm always still a little bit leery about only taking one of these out with me to camp, because I've seen so many times where these fail to start it. It started here on this video, obviously, but I'm still a little bit, you know, keeping maybe one of these on my truck. These little 12-volt batteries will absolutely start this thing up. Cold start, no priming, took a little bit of extra, you know, oomph power to get that thing started the first time, and this started it. So that's good news. Absolutely no ticking at all. There is no tick. That's some cool magical juju that HCalory put into this one. I'm gonna turn this down to H3 because I don't need 300 degree air pumping in this garage. But 26 watts right now, no tick, small form factor, remote, wireless remote with a thermostat that I can throw in my mini camper. It's gonna regulate the heat. Bluetooth app on my phone, I can control it that way, or you can use the actual hardwired LCD screen as a thermostat in a control box if you want. I wouldn't recommend doing that because you kind of lose the waterproofness having that cable come out of this, but you can. Giant fuel tank, biggest fuel tank I've had on any diesel heater at 7.5 liters, and it's the actual smallest diesel heater, so that's interesting. The only I guess bad thing that I can see on this diesel heater is A, the 3.5-inch output. You kind of got to figure a workaround for that. And B, there's not an easy way to get into the innards of this. All the other toolboxes, HCalory toolboxes, you could open up the front and you know, get to the actual mechanics of the heater. This, looks like you got to take, you can get to it, but you got to take off about probably 30 screws and take this entire piece of sheet metal off to get to the fuel tank, check the hoses, check the filters, check all the components. It's not quite as easy to get to all the stuff on this one as it is all the other HCalory toolboxes, but to this date, I've never needed to get into one to fix it. They've always just worked. So, guys, yeah, I'm just more shocked about the fact it's completely dead silent. There's no ticking whatsoever. My microphone is a foot away from this thing and you cannot hear it. This thing is pretty awesome. It is pretty nice. So I'll be taking this with me to the Gumby gathering in November in the event that we need it, because it's not that big. It doesn't take up that much cargo space in the back of my truck. So that's great. I'm not gonna have to bring extra diesel fuel because this has got 7.5 liters of it, and it's rated at around over 60 hours. I'm not gonna be there that long, so I won't have to bring extra diesel fuel with me. What I have in this should work fine. My power station should work. I'll probably bring a battery with me, but this should work to get it kick-started. Remote, yeah, that's awesome. I like it. So follow along my other channel to actually see this thing in real use scenarios, but I like to get these things here, turn them on, test them, make sure that they work before I take them out with me. So this is not a long-term review. This is more of an unboxing, kind of first thoughts, first impressions. and everything that I've heard about this so far from other people that I've seen videos on, it holds true. It's pretty sweet. So anyway, guys, I'll leave a link for this. It's an Amazon link, not from HCalory, but I'll leave an Amazon link down below. And check it out if you want, and follow along Brian Waters Outdoors to see this thing actually get used. Make sure it still works after some actual, you know, camping episodes and having to use this. So anyway, folks, dragging it on like I said I wouldn't, but we're gonna wrap it up here. Thanks for watching. See you soon.